The steady thrum of the music pulsed through the air, its bass beats reverberating in Alex's chest as he surveyed the opulent scene unfolding around him. The cavernous mansion, with its towering ceilings and gleaming marble floors, had been transformed into a veritable playground for the social elite of Oakwood Prep. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft amber glow over the throngs of beautifully dressed teenagers, each one more eager than the last to be seen and admired.
This vintage champagne, it's more than my family's monthly grocery budget.
All around him, his peers laughed and chattered, their conversations punctuated by the occasional tinkling of ice cubes and the clink of expensive glassware. Yet, despite the grandeur of the setting and the trappings of wealth that surrounded him, Alex found himself feeling oddly out of place. His gaze drifted across the room, taking in the familiar faces of his newly acquired friends. Evan, the once haughty ringleader of the popular clique, now deferential and eager to win Alex's favor. Chloe, the impeccably dressed socialite whose syrupy compliments seemed to drip with ulterior motives, and a host of other well-coiffed, perfectly manicured teenagers, all vying for a piece of his attention.
Alex, darling, I simply must know, where did you get that exquisite watch?
Oh, this old thing. It was just a little something I picked up on a business trip to Switzerland.
Switzerland, how divine. You simply must take me with you next time. I've been simply dying to visit.
As he observed their interactions, a nagging sense of discomfort began to creep into the back of Alex's mind. The easy camaraderie and genuine warmth he had initially felt among this elite crowd had been replaced by a palpable undercurrent of calculation and self-interest. Gone were the spontaneous laughter and genuine conversations he had so eagerly anticipated. In their place, he encountered a carefully choreographed dance of status, influence, and the pursuit of personal gain. As Chloe prattled on about her travel aspirations, Alex found his attention drifting elsewhere, his mind consumed by the growing realization that his new friends were interested in him not for who he was, but rather for the material wealth and status he had acquired. Across the room, he caught sight of Evan and a group of his cronies, their laughter a little too loud, their gestures a little too exaggerated.
They're boasting about their latest purchases, a fleet of high-performance sports cars, the latest virtual reality headsets, a private jet to whisk them away on exotic vacations.
It was all so carefully choreographed, so meticulously calculated to impress and intimidate. And Alex, with his newfound wealth and influence, was the newest addition to this gilded tableau, the latest trophy to be displayed and admired. A bitter taste rose in the back of his throat as the realization dawned on him. These were not his friends, not truly. They were mere acquaintances, drawn to him by the promise of material gain and the social capital he could provide. The camaraderie and acceptance he had so eagerly sought was nothing more than an illusion, a thin veneer masking the harsh reality of their self-serving motivations. As the party wore on, Alex found himself increasingly withdrawn, his eyes scanning the room with a newfound sense of disillusionment. As the party wore on, Alex found himself increasingly withdrawn, his eyes scanning the room with a newfound sense of disillusionment. The opulent surroundings, the lavish displays of wealth, the constant jockeying for position, it all began to feel hollow, a performance orchestrated to perpetuate the delusion of genuine connection and belonging. He thought back to the days before his time-traveling exploits, to the simpler times when he had been content with his modest means and the small circle of true friends who had accepted him, warts and all.
There had been a warmth and authenticity to those relationships, a sense of unconditional support that I now find myself sorely missing.
Alex's gaze drifted to the far corner of the room, where a group of his former classmates, the ones he had once so desperately longed to emulate, huddled together, their laughter genuine and their bonds clearly forged by more than just material possessions. Watching them, Alex felt a twinge of envy, but also a growing sense of discomfort with the path he had chosen. Had he truly traded one form of social isolation for another, swapping the derision of his former tormentors for the hollow adulation of those who valued him only for his wealth and status? As the party wore on, Alex found himself making excuses to withdraw, slipping away from the pulsing music and the endless parade of flashing cameras. He retreated to a secluded balcony where he stood alone, gazing out at the sprawling expanse of manicured lawns and gleaming sports cars.
It was in this quiet moment of solitude that the weight of my choices truly began to sink in.
The material trappings of wealth and popularity that had once filled him with a sense of triumph now seemed like a poor substitute for the authentic connections and sense of belonging he had once craved. Alex thought back to the wide-eyed wonder he had felt when he first discovered the power of time travel, the heady rush of being able to manipulate the future to his advantage.
But now, as I stand in the midst of my newly acquired fortune and status, I can't help but feel a growing sense of emptiness, a void that no amount of designer clothing or luxury vehicles could ever hope to fill.
He thought of his old friends, the ones who had accepted him without reservation, and the simple joys they had shared. Movie nights, shared lunches, and endless hours spent laughing and commiserating over the mundane challenges of adolescence.
Those moments, once so easily dismissed, now seem infinitely more meaningful than the carefully curated social interactions that define my new reality.
As the music pounded in the distance, Alex felt a familiar ache in his chest, a longing for the life he had once taken for granted. In that moment, Alex knew that he had to make a choice: to continue down the path of material excess and hollow relationships, or to find the courage to reclaim the person he had once been.
It will not be an easy decision, I know, but the alternative, living a life devoid of genuine connection and purpose, is simply too bleak to contemplate.
With a heavy sigh, Alex turned and made his way back into the party, his mind racing with the implications of the choice that lay before him.
I know that the road ahead will be difficult, that undoing the changes I have wrought will not be without its own challenges and consequences.
But as he surveyed the sea of familiar faces, each one a mask concealing their true motivations, he felt a newfound resolve begin to take hold.
I will find a way to reclaim my authenticity, to recapture the sense of belonging I had once so desperately craved.
And this time, he vowed, it would be built on a foundation of genuine connection and self-acceptance, not the hollow trappings of wealth and status.
The path ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in what feels like an eternity, I feel a glimmer of hope begin to take root within me.
With a renewed sense of purpose, he stepped back into the fray, determined to confront the consequences of his actions and find his way back to the person he had once been, before time travel and the promise of popularity had irrevocably altered the course of his life.